Well, hello everybody. It's been a little while since I have done a stream, but here we are. Hello everybody. My name is Tom Burns. Welcome to the stream. WrestleMania week has begun, and just sort this out a minute. Oh, sorted. Um, so, uh, we're going to be doing a Raw watch along. Um, it's going to be fun. WrestleMania week has begun. Of course, let's move this a bit forward. Sorry. WrestleMania week has begun, and we are here for Monday Night Raw now. Before I continue with what we're going to be doing in this stream and why I've started so early, I just want to go over my schedule for this week. So my schedule for this week is as follows. So I will be live on Twitch and on YouTube for Raw tonight, for SmackDown on Friday, and Hall of Fame following SmackDown on Friday. And also I will be live for WrestleMania weekend, night 1, night 2. Now, just give me a second. Hello. Let me just check. Right, no, you can't be heard on the stream just yet. We'll get round to talking in a second. I was just going through my my schedule for the week. Well, you can't be heard at the moment, so yeah, if you want to do that. Anyway, what I was saying was, so yes, I'll be live for WrestleMania night 1 and night 2 as well. Now, uh, no, well, I'm on the air, but you can't be heard yet. I'm not unmuted the audio for you to be heard yet. Um, so anyway, uh, yeah. So WrestleMania night 1 and night 2, I'll be streaming. So yeah, so tonight, Friday night, SmackDown and Hall of Fame on Friday, night 1 and night 2. I was thinking about doing the NXT pay-per-view as well, because it's usually always really, really good in WrestleMania week, but I'm working as well. It's just going to be too much. So, doubtful. Um, but yeah, so I decided just to do Monday night, Friday night, SmackDown, and then WrestleMania night 1, night 2. Um, it just makes the most sense, and it's not too much for me. So anyway, I'm going to be joined shortly. Well, he's actually here right now. I've just not unmuted him yet. By Professor Wigglytuff, as he is known on my Twitch channel. He's one of my moderators and friends. He always joins us for these streams. And the reason why I've started the stream so early is because we're going to talk about our favourite WrestleMania moments and some iconic WrestleMania moments. Now, I want to put out a disclaimer right here before we start talking, because I feel like it's important to do this. There may be some names mentioned that are controversial, but I feel it's important for the sake of transparency that certain names are mentioned, because there are certain moments that should be mentioned, not celebrating them so much as in just mentioning them because we're talking about WrestleMania moments. And really, when you talk about WrestleMania moments, there is some moments that you have to mention, and it may have some controversial names in them. So I'm just putting that out there as a disclaimer. So if you're easily offended and you don't want to hear certain names, I would leave now. Um, and yeah, so let's get on with it. Hello, hello. You can be heard now.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Thank you very much, Tom. And yeah, we're here. WrestleMania week, the showpiece event of WWE and wrestling in general. Anyone who's listening to this who might be heading out to Philadelphia this week or planning to go or wherever, I'm envious of you. But
As am I.
for the rest of us, us mere mortals, we'll watch it here from the comfort of our own home, or there's a number of watch parties going on across the country. WrestleMania is now a big thing. I mean, for as long as I can remember, I've always been watching WrestleMania every year, and even if I didn't stay up to watch it when I was younger, I'd always record it. Back in the days when we had something called VCRs. If you don't know what it is, kids, ask your parents or go on Wikipedia. But and also as I keep reminding Tom and others, I had the privilege of going to WrestleMania 31 in California, just outside San Francisco. It was great. It was a great experience. It's something that has to be done at least once in a lifetime by every wrestling fan. But yeah, I mean, I just want to get in straight off the bat with the WrestleMania moments, and one of those controversial moments that I want to mention right off the bat. We might as well start right now. You can't talk about WrestleMania without mentioning Hulk Hogan, for better or for worse. And I'm obviously not going to discuss, some of his misdemeanors, as it were. I think that that we're all very much aware of that. We all know, and obviously however we want to view him as a person, that is fine. For better or for worse, he is an indelible part of WrestleMania history, from the very first WrestleMania up until WrestleMania, I'd say 18 or 19, when he came back, and his sporadic appearances, and he looks set to be appearing again at WrestleMania 40. You can't talk about the history of WrestleMania, the history of the WWE, or the history of wrestling and not mention Hulk Hogan. And main event after main event after main event, he was at the forefront of that. Indeed, one of my favorite matches of all time, dare I say it, does feature Hulk Hogan, and it would have to be The Rock versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18, which was objectively a very, very good match, between two men who aren't necessarily noted for their wrestling skills, but who are probably two of the most charismatic and larger than life characters to have ever set foot in the ring. And they told a story. It was a great story, and it played out in a very iconic venue, which Hulk Hogan himself had headlined many, many moons ago against another controversial individual who we will come on to shortly. And they completely tore the house down, in my honest opinion. The only thing that the match lacked was that it wasn't the main event, or it wasn't with the WWE title on the line, but it didn't really need either of that. It was sensational to watch in terms of the build up, the match itself, and the story that it
Yeah.
told. So I thought I'd just start off there before we talk about Hulk Hogan's other matches. Um, I mean, there are other matches we will mention, no doubt, but the other match, obviously, we have to mention. You can't talk about WrestleMania and not well, certainly Hulk Hogan's always quick to remind us about the time he body slammed Andre the Giant WrestleMania 3, which
Yep.
was supposedly the highest attended WrestleMania slash wrestling event of all time, supposedly. A figure that is disputed. But yeah, I thought in terms of controversy, we should get that one out of the way first, because his name is going to pop up a lot.
Well, of course, and I mean, me and you, we've talked about Hulk Hogan many a time, and neither of us have got much respect for the guy anymore, if any, to be honest. But you cannot mention WrestleMania and talk WrestleMania without Hulk Hogan, and I don't think it's over exaggerating by saying if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania probably wouldn't be what it is today. Um,
No,
I
exactly, exactly.
I stick by that. Some people might think I'm over exaggerating with that, but I stick by that. I mean, Hulk Hogan for the first God knows how many WrestleManias basically carried the company and carried WrestleMania. So
Certainly, WrestleMania 1 through 9.
yeah, exactly. So if it wasn't for him, who knows if WrestleMania would have even got off the ground? I mean, we don't know. Um, so yeah, you can't not mention Hulk Hogan in in this. But let's be honest, you know, as much as Hulk Hogan is a controversial figure, he's probably not the most controversial figure we're probably going to mention today. Um, but we'll get on to others in a little while. We'll keep on talking about Hogan for a little bit. And yeah, I would have to say one of my favorite matches of Hogan at WrestleMania has to be the one you mentioned between the The Rock and Hulk Hogan. It's definitely a match that is still talked about to this day. Um, it is a match that if a wrestling fan asks you what's one of the most memorable WrestleMania matches that you can think of, it's one that immediately springs to mind as probably in the top five most memorable. Um, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that. It wasn't the best of matches. It certainly wasn't a wrestling um, in terms of wrestling, it wasn't an amazing match, but the story was there, and the two guys in the ring were and still are, you know, icons of the wrestling world. Um, so yeah, it was a big match, regardless of how good they were in the ring. It was a big match, and I enjoyed it very much. I would have loved to have been there live for it because I can just imagine the atmosphere because I could feel the atmosphere through the TV. So just being there would have been amazing. But I've yet to go to a WrestleMania. It is on my bucket list of things to do in terms of what I want to do when it comes to wrestling events and stuff like that. It's definitely on my bucket list. I will one day go to a WrestleMania, regardless of the cost or anything like that. I will get to a WrestleMania one year. It's just something you have to do as a wrestling fan and as a WWE fan. So yeah,
Yeah, I think now that we've mentioned Hulk Hogan, we might as well get number two of our controversial figures off our list in
yep,
terms of memorable WrestleMania moments. And again, this is a man who I admit, like Hulk Hogan, I was a big fan of growing up when I was young. And in the subsequent years before his passing, I lost a lot of respect for him, as did a lot of people, I would say, because of his, well, not just his professionalism, both in and out of the ring, but also a lot of controversial things he said. Now, again, I'm not going to repeat some of the stuff that he had said. People can Google that. But of course, the man that I am talking about is the Ultimate Warrior.
yep,
And I think for a whole host of reasons, that match was significant. Again, it was in the same, as I alluded to, it was in the same venue where Rock versus Hogan took place many years later in the Toronto Sky Dome. It was billed as probably the first time for a WrestleMania main event where it was two good guys facing against each other, arguably the two biggest superstars in wrestling at that time. A champion versus champion match, Hulk Hogan as the incumbent WWE champion, then the WWF, of course, against the Ultimate Warrior, then the WWF Intercontinental Champion. You were either a Hogan fan or a Warrior fan, and Ultimate Warrior beating Hulk Hogan was a very seminal watershed moment. It was at the time, well, certainly until WrestleMania the next year, it was seen as the moment where Hogan was passing on the torch and that a new superstar was going to take the reins, that being the Ultimate Warrior. And of course, Hulk Hogan being the master politician that he is, with his creative control card. Sorry to stick the boot into Hulk Hogan. Obviously, had to take the moment for himself as well, presenting Warrior with the belt and raising his hand in the ring. We all thought that was Ultimate Warrior as the big superstar in wrestling. Now, again, I'm not going to go into depth about Ultimate Warrior's personal life in and out of the ring, but one could argue his demons got the better of him. As we know, he then dropped the belt at Royal Rumble that next year to Sergeant Slaughter, a superstar who I have a lot of time for, a legend of the ring, who I had the honour of meeting. Recently, he lost the belt to Sergeant Slaughter, and that led to another controversial storyline where he became an Iraqi sympathiser. And naturally, who was going to come to America's rescue? Of course, it was going to be Hulk Hogan, who then won the belt back that he lost to Ultimate Warrior the previous year at the next year's WrestleMania. And well, so much for passing on the torch. But yeah, no, you can't. Again, just like Hulk Hogan, you can't talk about WrestleMania without talking about that moment.
No, and absolutely. I mean, yep, very very much a controversial figure. Um, you know, we won't
And
get
again,
into
as I said, I'm not going to get
we
into
won't get
obviously
into
the
the
stuff they
details of
said. If
why he's controversial. Like you've just said, if anyone wants to Google what he said, then go ahead and Google. That's down to you. I'm sure some people don't know what he said. There will be maybe some young people watching this who are wrestling fans who maybe have only got into wrestling over the last couple of years. You won't have a clue what's happened. You might not even know what's happened with Hulk Hogan and why people don't respect him anymore. You're free to go and Google these things. We're not going to get into the whys and wherefores of why these people who we are mentioning are controversial. And we're not just going to mention controversial figures, by the way. I don't want you to think we're just going to list off a load of controversial figures. We are going to talk about other things as well, and celebrate some superstars who aren't controversial. You know what I mean? I feel like we just want to get the controversial ones out the way first,
mm,
which is completely understandable. Um, but
sure, or we could do it as we're doing at the moment. We're doing it like a bit of a timeline. We started at the beginning, with Hulk Hogan. You know, Obviously we didn't really mention WrestleMania one, but with all due respect, WrestleMania didn't really get exciting until about WrestleMania three
yeah,
onwards. But
um,
it's up to you how you want to do it. If you want to do it as a timeline form, so we got to WrestleMania six, we got to seven with Sergeant Slaughter. So then, yeah,
I mean,
you're
I'm not when it comes to like timelines of things. I'm not the best. Um, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like
well, we
timelines.
can we can always come back to other WrestleMania moments.
It just.
But I
I feel
thought
like just
maybe
mixing it up a bit would be better. But yeah, I feel like
unless you want to get the other controversial figure out of the way.
well, figures. There's a few that we've not mentioned yet.
Well,
Um,
that's wrestling for you.
but it's amazing, isn't it? Like we've already mentioned two controversial figures, and we've got like I think at least three more that we've not even mentioned yet. I mean that just says it all, doesn't it? But anyway,
Well,
um,
maybe why don't I help you by jumping into another controversial figure then?
okay, good.
So obviously, again, I'm not going to talk about the specifics of the issues at hand, particularly with this individual, as this is also a live case that could potentially turn into a major legal case. And so, obviously, for the sake of avoiding any sort of litigation, I'm not going to mention the allegations, the accusations, but a man who has certainly been a part of WrestleMania's more recent history, um, Brock Lesnar, who, for better or for worse, has featured in a number of WrestleMania main events, and undoubtedly, probably the most iconic WrestleMania moment of all time,
Of course.
which I felt then at the time was for all the wrong reasons and still is to this day. when he ended the Undertaker's famous streak.
Yep,
Frankly, a piece of wrestling history that should have remained untouched.
I agree. I mean, you can't talk about WrestleMania without talking about the streak.
Yeah,
Um,
and again, for better or for worse, controversy aside, controversy aside, you know, Brock Lesnar is a part of that history, and
yes,
as well as obviously main eventing a number of WrestleManias,
yeah,
featuring in a number of title matches, also featuring in a complete stinker of a match with Goldberg at WrestleMania 20.
yeah.
WrestleMania 20.
Stone Cold was a special ref in that match.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know your view on that. I mean, yes, in terms of the last 10
I
years of
feel
wrestling.
like with Brock, so I feel like his probably well, obviously his most memorable moment. And it's a moment that a lot of us don't want to remember because we never wanted it to end. But obviously, it's the ending of the streak. But if I had to say,
And that was 10 years ago as
yeah,
well. You
yeah,
know, remind me.
yeah, I have to say, in terms of the matches he's had since he came back to the WWE, not many of them stick in my mind as memorable. But one match does stick in my mind as memorable, and that is before he left WWE. Before he left WWE, and that was his WrestleMania match against Kurt Angle. Um, what a match! What a match! I really really like that match. I've watched it many times, and it's probably for me his most memorable WrestleMania match in terms of the match itself. Obviously, moment wise, obviously it's the streak, but match wise for me, it's got to be his match with Kurt Angle because he's had. I mean, he's fought. Who's he fought since he come back? He's fought Roman Reigns multiple times in main events. He's faced Dean Ambrose or John Moxley. He's faced Seth Rollins, which was a relatively quick match with Rollins picking up the win. He has faced Omos in a very forgettable match. Um, who else? That's it as far as I can remember. Obviously Undertaker as well, but that is it as far as I can remember. I think he faced Triple H. I think that might have been his first WrestleMania after he come back. I think it was WrestleMania 29. He faced Triple H. That was his first WrestleMania after coming back. Um, so yeah, none of them match. Well, his match against Triple H was pretty decent, but to me, none of them matches particularly memorable. Um, but yeah, his match with Kurt Angle. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, his match with Kurt Angle definitely his most memorable match at WrestleMania.
No, yeah, I mean, look, it is also important to point out that, this is still an ongoing case and there have been no real charges pressed against Brock Lesnar, so it would be unfair to kind of suggest that a man is guilty when he isn't or hasn't been found so, and that is certainly not what either of us are saying.
No,
I think it's complete, we can't acknowledge certainly the last 10 years of WrestleMania between WrestleMania 30 and um, certainly WrestleMania 30 and now without acknowledging Brock Lesnar and his contribution.
well, exactly.
And, it has to be said. That has to be said. Um, are we just going to get the controversial people out the way
Well,
first?
I feel like I'll go on. I'll mention the next one. You brought up the other, so I think I'll mention the next one. And I think,
Okay.
seeing as we're talking about Brock and the ongoing investigation, I think we have to mention the other person involved in this investigation and allegations. Of course, we are not going to mention any of the allegations. If you want to find out what is going on, you're free to go and Google. That's not what this stream is about. We're here just to talk about memorable moments, and I feel like we cannot talk about WrestleMania without basically the creator of WrestleMania. And I don't really want to talk about him, to be honest, but I feel like we have to. It is, of course, the the I don't well the one and only Vince McMahon. Um, I
Yeah, I mean,
I feel
yeah.
like Um, I mean, he's had some memorable moments at WrestleMania, of course. You know, whether you agree with it or not, that moment at the end of WrestleMania 17 where Austin turned heel and joined up with Vince McMahon, basically signaling the end of the Attitude Era, very memorable. The end of WCW as well. You know, very memorable. He had some memorable matches as well. I think he faced Hulk Hogan. I believe he face Shane at WrestleMania, his own son?
He
I think
did.
he did.
WrestleMania 17, of
Uh,
course.
he
Memorably
he
lost.
faced. I'm sure didn't he face who else did he face Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania?
No, but he did face
No,
Bret Hart.
that's it. Bret Hart, yeah. Um, I can't remember who else he faced at WrestleMania, but he did have a few, you know, memorable matches. He was never the best in the ring, but you know, his matches always seem to have moments in them that you remember. Um, like his match with Hulk Hogan, when he did that, whatever, when he put Hulk Hogan through the announce table in what was one of the most awkward fucking spots I think I've ever seen. But for that reason, it's memorable. Um, yeah,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna praise Vince McMahon a lot. And I won't dwell on him too much. But look, he was the creator of WrestleMania. Again, an indelible mark on wrestling history and WrestleMania history. We've mentioned the matches he was involved in. Whatever happens with these allegations, whatever position you want to take, and obviously it's a live case and possibly one that may go into the courts. If indeed the case goes a certain way, then obviously he just becomes a footnote that he was a part of WrestleMania history, and that's about it.
mm,
And again, I'm not passing judgment, but basically that's just my view on Vince McMahon. He created WrestleMania. It is what it is. He was involved in some memorable moments. That's all I have to say on Vince McMahon, I'm afraid.
and that's fair enough. I didn't really want to talk about him at all, but I feel like for the sake of transparency, we cannot talk about WrestleMania without talking about the creator. But
Indeed, I feel
but
I feel it's a
we
case of if we are going to celebrate WrestleMania
we have
and
to
all
talk
the
about who
others who are
created
involved,
it.
it's best to get the controversial bits out of the way first, and then we
So
can just focus on.
okay, we'll move on from Vince McMahon now. I don't think either of us want to talk anymore about him, and we'll move on to, in my opinion, probably the most controversial figure out of the lot for very obvious reasons. Again, not going to get into what he did. If you're interested in what he did, just go on Google. I'm not going to talk about that because again, that's not what this stream is about. This stream is about talking about WrestleMania moments and not necessarily celebrating what these controversial figures did in terms of moments, just mentioning them because I feel like for the sake of transparency, we have to. And this man, in my opinion, had one of the most memorable moments in WrestleMania history, and it turns 20 years old this year. Um, I know you know who I'm talking about. I am, of course, talking about Chris Benoit. Again, not someone I feel like either of us are going to want to dwell on, but I feel like he didn't really have many memorable WrestleMania moments, let's be honest, but he did have one of the most memorable moments in WrestleMania history. And of course, that I feel like it's important to keep mentioning it because it's important to celebrate Eddie Guerrero because Eddie Guerrero deserves to be celebrated. Um, and of course, the moment I'm talking about is the end of WrestleMania 20 when Eddie Guerrero came out to celebrate with Chris Benoit, and they were both in the ring as champions, as underdog champions, and what a moment it was. Yeah, I feel like we can't talk about WrestleMania without talking about that moment because it's one of the most memorable. I
Yeah,
don't know what
and
you want to add.
look, again, like I did with the previous individual, I'm just going to mention this very quickly. It was 20 years ago, and I think for what it's worth, again, I'm not going to talk about why this figure is a controversial figure. It's easily out there. But for what it's worth, in terms of the underdog storyline, the way Benoit and Eddie Guerrero are framed as these underdogs, unconventional, smaller types of wrestlers he scaled the mountain. Whether it was Benoit from going as number one in the Royal Rumble to winning the Royal Rumble, eliminating the Big Show, gate crashing the main event, as it were, that was set to be Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, um, and winning the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 20 in the main event at Madison Square Garden. And for Eddie Guerrero on that same card to win the WWE Undisputed title, it was a at the time memorable moment. Let's not take anything away from you know, well, not necessarily take anything away from Benoit. I don't wish to take that away from the legacy of Eddie Guerrero. Two legendary figures, two best of friends. Obviously, none of us were to kind of envisage what was to happen literally a year from that point when Eddie Guerrero tragically passed away. And then obviously a couple of years after that with obviously the other guy. But yeah, it and the whole point of mentioning a lot of these controversial people is for better or for worse, and indeed in terms of their legacies for worse, they unfortunately have played a significant part in the history of WrestleMania that we can't really discuss WrestleMania and not mention them, even if just to get it
Yeah,
out of the way.
yeah,
At the end of the day, as well, by not mentioning those figures, we also then inadvertently erase the others who were involved.
yeah,
Like I mentioned, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero, Steve Austin,
yeah,
The Rock,
yeah,
Sergeant Slaughter, all of who shouldn't have to suffer by association, as it were.
yeah,
But look, we've mentioned those controversial figures. I think now we can move on to really celebrating. But if I can, I think we should kind of do it in a bit of reverse, really. And um, you know, Eddie Guerrero again, somebody who he had that memorable moment WrestleMania 20. He was on the undercards of other WrestleManias. Um, his time at the top was brief.
brief
His
but
time,
memorable.
it was very memorable, and obviously someone who very much missed by the wrestling community, very much a legend of wrestling. He was inducted at WrestleMania. Obviously, the WrestleMania following his tragic passing. Um, as I said, someone who is certainly very much missed by a lot of people.
Yeah, um, yeah, he is. Um, Probably one of the saddest deaths in WWE history. I He was just very much loved by fans, by his colleagues. He was just very much loved, and it was very evident of how much he was loved by his tribute show. I mean, he he was that loved that even Vince McMahon teared up. You know what I mean? He never ever teared up. He never on screen ever, never. That was the one time. Um, at least back then anyway, because he was in that character that was tough as nails and hard faced. You know what I mean? And even Vince McMahon couldn't help but cry, and that's how much he was loved. Um, it was very sad. I wish he was still around today. I mean, I'm not saying he would be wrestling, but at least he would, I would hope he would still be involved in some way. Um, but yeah, definitely has one of the most memorable WrestleMania moments, and it's important that we do mention it, even though the other person involved is very controversial, because we have to celebrate his legacy and his moments. Um, but I feel like we've touched on it once already, but I feel like we cannot talk about WrestleMania without going in. I say in depth, but without talking in more detail about the streak.
No, I do.
Uh,
I mean, The Undertaker, you know, there's somebody else that they refer to as Mr. WrestleMania, but I think The Undertaker is also deeply interwoven into the fabric of WrestleMania history with that streak that went on that I genuinely thought was going to go on forever. And then until it didn't. And I still think to this day it was the worst thing that ever happened because to the Undertaker in the sense that it didn't take anything away from him as a legend of the ring, but it took away that aura of invincibility, that one thing that he had that set him apart from the likes of Steve Austin, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, even to an extent Brock Lesnar, you know. Okay, let's not mention Brock Lesnar, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, you can name them the list of the greatest figures in wrestling history. That was the one thing he had that set him apart. And yet, for whatever reason, Vince McMahon decided that was it. It was done. It was still, as far as I'm concerned, after that, it was just impossible to look at the Undertaker in the same way again and just think and not think about the streak. Uh, but then on the flip side, we can look at the many memorable matches he had at WrestleMania. And for me personally, um, in terms of the memorable WrestleMania encounters that he had,
yo,
I would
so
say his
how you doing?
his the debut of his dead
I
man
was just
persona at
saying
WrestleMania
WrestleMania
20
week.
against Kane when he came back supposedly from the dead.
Uh, we're going to be very busy with the
And
streams this
with
week.
his
We're going to be
iconic
doing
entrance,
today, 5 minutes SmackDown,
which been a
and night one and
mainstay
night
of
two at
WrestleMania,
WrestleMania.
Undertaker at
How you
WrestleMania,
doing
those
anyway, Pooh?
iconic entrances that nobody can forget. And then there was him against Batista at WrestleMania 23 when he won the World Heavyweight Championship. When he won it again off Edge at WrestleMania 24 in the main event, a memorable main event. But then, of course, I would say probably the two greatest matches of his career and Shawn Michaels' career, and probably two of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, WrestleMania 25 and WrestleMania 26.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was gonna, my next question was going to be what was your favorite match when it comes to the streak, and I was gonna say mine was WrestleMania 25 against Shawn Michaels without a doubt.
Oh, I would say WrestleMania 26, not so much in terms of a technical spectacle, but in terms of the story
Oh,
that
the
it's.
story was better for WrestleMania 26, but I feel like the match itself, WrestleMania 25, was better.
Of course, if anything, I think WrestleMania 25 turned out better than a lot of us expected. I think we
Yeah.
were expecting a boring match. And then when it actually turned out very, very good, I think it had the wheels turning for a great storyline the year after. And it was really the first time we kind of, yeah, we were already talking about the streak for a couple of WrestleManias, but that was the first time we really talked about somebody possibly ending the streak. And it took on a deeper meaning. It was the first time, basically the Undertaker acknowledging that the streak was a part of him, and that in order to destroy that, it would have to take something spectacular, and likewise, any opponent would have to put something on the line.
Hmm.
It was effectively like a career-ending match for both men, really, in a way. And as I said to you off stream, for me, what was great about that match, it was not just the story that it told, but it really felt like the end of an era. You know, two great iconic wrestling rivals tussling one on one for the very final time, and effectively that's what it was. It was the very final time the two faced each other certainly in a one on one contest. The final time they faced each other in the ring, and yeah, it was a classic, and I mean, of course, I will come back. We will come back to mention the other man in a moment. I am sure, but some other WrestleMania matches that I think deserve to be mentioned featuring the Undertaker include his matches with Triple H.
Of course, especially in Hell in a
Um,
Cell.
definitely, definitely. But yeah, I mean, you can't mention WrestleMania without there are at least there are a number of wrestlers you can't talk about WrestleMania and not mention, but Undertaker is definitely in the top five.
Definitely.
And then there's one more man whom maybe you might want to introduce and we talk about.
Well, if I think I know who you want to talk about. Well, you can't talk about WrestleMania without talking about the man who was called Mr. WrestleMania, and of course, it's the one and only Shawn Michaels. I mean, we could be here all day talking about memorable matches at WrestleMania for Shawn Michaels. He had so many. Of course, we've just talked about probably his two most memorable, um, which was of course his matches with the Undertaker. But I feel like there's a just before his matches against Undertaker, um, at 25 and 26, he had another memorable match at WrestleMania 24. Of course, the match against Ric Flair, which Ric Flair, in air quotes, retired, because we know he didn't and still hasn't to this day. Um,
He needs to be forced into retirement somehow.
you know what I mean? Like it's you know a memorable match, of course, memorable moment, of course. And of course that whenever they show like WrestleMania like videos and packages and stuff like that, there's always that moment that they show where Shawn Michaels says, "I'm sorry, I love you," and then super kicks Ric Flair. That's probably the most memorable moment of that match. Um, I mean, Shawn Michaels had many a memorable match at WrestleMania.
I mean, of course, we can't mention Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania without mentioning his Iron Man match with
Brett,
Bret Hart.
of course. And I believe, that was a match where he won the WWE Championship for the first time.
Indeed, WrestleMania 12. The boyhood dream
It went
that
in,
came true.
if I remember rightly, it went into overtime.
It did, and he won. And yeah, um, if there is a man who, like the Undertaker, like Hulk Hogan, is synonymous with WrestleMania, it is Shawn Michaels, Mr. WrestleMania himself.
Mm,
And of course, a famous ladder match with the late Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon, at WrestleMania 10, uh, and then taking his place in the Hall of Fame. He is a part of WrestleMania history.
of course. I feel like, um, moving on a bit from Shawn Michaels now. Um, there's so many things we could talk about when it comes to WrestleMania. I mean, we could be here for hours. This is why I started the stream so early, because I feel like we're 50 minutes into the stream, and I feel like both of us have still got a lot to talk about. Um, but I feel like this, for the wrong reasons. I feel like, I say that. I feel like it'd be quite amusing to bring this up, but you cannot talk about WrestleMania without talking about that legendary match at WrestleMania 27 between Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler.
Oh God!
I mean, what an iconic match, you know.
I mean, WrestleMania's had so many hilarious moments. That's one of them.
Michael Cole,
Um,
to this day, still remains undefeated at WrestleMania.
indeed, his WrestleMania streak is still intact.
It is.
Wasn't there a time when the Big Show had a sumo wrestling match with Akibono?
Yeah, Big Show also had a match against Floyd
Floyd
Mayweather.
Mayweather, yes, of course. There was the gimmick battle royal, exactly, to this day, 23 years ago,
Yeah.
which unfortunately Iron Sheik couldn't take a bump in the match, so but couldn't take a bump, so Iron Sheik won the match, but then Sergeant Slaughter put him in the Cobra Clutch at the end.
Mm.
It was a match that featured a number of gimmicks, including Doink the Clown as well. So, I mean, there's been other weird moments at WrestleMania. And, before we go back to talking about wrestlers, of course, WrestleMania has always been about celebrities, whether it's the old rock and roll, rock and wrestling connection, connecting it with music, to celebrity appearances, obviously a number of whom are controversial, and obviously tied in with the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame. But to mention a few, obviously WrestleMania 1 started a trend. You had Muhammad Ali and the famous pianist Liberace, who were involved in the main event. Uh, you've had the likes of Cyndi Lauper. You've had obviously famous bands come to play, whether it's Motorhead,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was Limp Bizkit, whether it was Machine Gun Kelly. And then obviously you've had some more controversial figures who were featured in main event spots, like Mike Tyson, and of course a certain man whom, whether or not we want to mention him by name, who ended up, I believe, becoming president of the United States.
Oh, Mr. Trump
Yeah. Um,
in
again,
that classic hair versus hair match.
indeed, indeed. So, and of
Yeah.
course, WrestleMania was twice hosted in his casino.
Mm.
So look, WrestleMania for me is one of those events. It's yeah, some people disagree on this, but it isn't about the wrestling, nor should it be entirely about the wrestling, because at the end of the day, this is a showpiece event for wrestling to attract non-wrestling fans or casual fans back into wrestling. It should offer a bit of something for everybody.
Yeah. I completely
And
agree.
the celebrity appearances at WrestleMania have become synonymous
Yeah.
with just how big wrestling is
Yeah.
around the world, and the crossover that it has, the crossover appeal that it has.
Well, exactly. Exactly. It's. I mean, it's that big that it was too big for one night. That's why they've made it 2 nights because it was just too big for one night. Um.
Exactly. What
Uh,
started off as a way because of to mitigate the COVID restrictions and not have everyone in the arena in one night, has now become a 2 night event,
yeah.
and will remain a 2 night event for, I think, the foreseeable future.
Most definitely. And I
Um,
mean, it's also good for the wrestlers as well because they can get more people on the card. Um.
they get
Which
more people on the card.
is always a
Yeah,
good thing. But yeah.
but yeah, that little, we took a little bit of a side track there, talking about famous celebs.
um.
Back to the wrestlers. I think you know we can't talk about WrestleMania moments and not mention two men we've already alluded to, but we'll mention them in turn. But let's do the first one. Let's do you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Of course. Um. His matches against The Rock. You know, to this day, I think people who were fans, at that time, like me and you, we when Stone Cold is mentioned, we instantly think about their matches, and You
His
know,
rivalry with The Rock.
his rivalry with The Rock was absolutely legendary, and it's probably what made them become the best of friends, to be honest, because they are the best of friends in real life. Neither man, you know, neither man have denied it or anything like that, and they make no bones about saying that they are good friends. Um, which I love. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean Stone Cold. I would say his most memorable matches were the ones against The Rock. Obviously, he was involved in that match with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, which obviously wasn't memorable really, but that wasn't Stone Cold's fault. Um, yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can't mention WrestleMania without talking about Stone Cold, mainly because of his rivalry with The Rock. Um, yeah, I I'll let you go on because you said there was another superstar that you wanted to mention.
Oh no, I mean, just before I obviously we move on from Austin, of course we can't forget, as we mentioned Mike Tyson. You know that main event of WrestleMania 14 where Austin won the WWF title for the first time against Shawn Michaels
Hello,
with a little
Striker
bit of
Wolf.
help from Mike
How you
Tyson.
doing?
He turned on
We're here to give
Shawn
you a watch
Michaels
log
on
of
D-Generation
Monday Night
X.
Raw. Uh, hope you're doing okay. Um, and yeah, how you doing then?
Hello, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, no, I just thought we should mention WrestleMania. Of course, we can't not mention WrestleMania 14. It was significant that was Austin winning his WWF title for the first time. But
Of
then,
course,
you know, yeah, and then we come on to obviously a man who headlined a number of WrestleManias, a man who is synonymous with wrestling, so much so that some 11 years after he headlined a WrestleMania, he now returns to headline another WrestleMania. And of course, I am talking about none other than the great one himself, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment,
of course,
the
of course.
people's champion,
The Rock, of
the
course.
Brahma Bull,
Yeah.
the final boss of The
Just
Rock.
before we get into that question, I have a question from somebody in the comments on my YouTube. He has asked, got a question. Who is your prediction to win Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes? I mean, I was going to come on to this a little bit later, but as soon as you've asked now, I'll answer you now, just in case you're not here later on. My prediction is Cody Rhodes. I don't think they're going to have Cody Rhodes lose for a second year in a row. I think it would just be pointless to have him win two Rumbles on the row if that's what they're going to do. I think The Rock turns on Roman. Um, I think that's what happens. It sets up next year for Rock versus Roman, and I think that's where both Rock and Roman walk away um, for the foreseeable anyway. Um,
Um,
until both return to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, unless The Rock is inducted next year, which is possible. But yeah,
yeah, I think I have to agree with that. I'm not 100% certain about The Rock turning on Roman Reigns. We will see how that plays out. But, I mean, indeed, we will, this time next week, we will know, won't we?
of course,
We will know. But I, 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 I would like to think that given that now he's won two Royal Rumbles on the bounce, the way this has been promoted, there is no other outcome for me other than Cody Rhodes winning against Roman Reigns.
yeah,
And if they didn't, um, obviously I'd be shocked. But then the question would remain as to why they feel that would have to be the case,
Yeah,
and what is the big payoff having Roman keep the title for this long.
exactly.
If it was a case of they wanted to keep it on him until September, by which point he will have surpassed both Bob Backlund and Hulk Hogan and become obviously the longest reigning champion behind Bruno Sammartino. But at this stage, I don't anticipate that is going to be the case.
No, no. I think they've got to have Cody win, and I think what I've said about Rock turning on Roman and setting it up for next year, I think makes complete sense. But then WWE don't always do what makes complete sense, so we shall see. But anyway, Striker Wolf, I hope we've answered your question good enough, and let us know what your prediction is. Anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about. We were talking about the Rock, of course, and yes, he's headlining another WrestleMania, which means he's headlined a WrestleMania in 3 different decades, um, which is quite a feat. Um,
Yeah, he
yeah,
has. He
I
has.
mean, he of course main evented 2 WrestleManias on the row with John Cena. Um, he main evented with Stone Cold. Um, all very memorable matches. Um, I think the Rock versus John Cena rivalry was just memorable for a whole host of reasons, and actually, the matches themselves were probably the thing that was the least memorable out of the rivalry. I think the back and forth on the mic over the 2 years, well, 3 years, was what made the rivalry. Um, so yeah, and again, like we said, he is main eventing at WrestleMania 40 on night one. Well, we think he is. It's not been confirmed yet, but I cannot see there being any other main event of night one. There's no other match that it should be apart from the tag team match. I mean, some people will say, "Oh, well, the women should main event night one." I'm sorry. As much as I love Bailey and as much as I like Io, that match has had nowhere near as good of a build up. It's got nowhere near as good of a story, and in my opinion, it will be nowhere near as good of a match. I'm not saying Bailey doesn't deserve to main event because, of course, she does, and so does Io. They're very talented ladies, but it does not main event over The Rock and Roman versus Cody and Seth. It just doesn't.
No, absolutely. I agree. We are, you know, the biggest tag team in the biggest WrestleMania tag team match of all time.
That's what they're building it up as, yeah.
Uh, it's going to be that.
Yeah. Um, okay, so we've mentioned Austin, we've mentioned The Rock, we've mentioned a whole host of controversial figures. Um, but I feel, of course, especially over the last 10 years at least, we can't talk about WrestleMania moments and, wrestlers at WrestleMania without talking about Roman Reigns. I mean, he's main evented many WrestleManias, and he's going to main event both nights this year, as is Cody. Um, yeah, I feel like we can't talk about WrestleMania at least over the last 10 years without talking about Roman Reigns. Has his matches been memorable? No, not really. Not in terms of the match themselves, maybe the story, but not the matches themselves. Um, but yeah, I mean, have you got anything to say about Roman?
No, I mean, look, we're right in saying, of the last, you know, period between WrestleMania and 30 and 40, just as, John Cena, and whoops, I've mentioned him. Of course, we will come back to John Cena in a moment, but, certainly if we look at it as a decade between WrestleMania and 40, Roman Reigns has been there for better or for worse. And I was just talking about this earlier with somebody. It's easy to forget the challenges Roman Reigns has had
Yeah.
outside of the ring with his health issues and the fact that he still to this day has to continue to take medication.
Well, this is it, and this.
And, you know, love him or hate him for what he does in the ring, in context, what he has done effectively carrying the WWE has been incredible. And that needs to be applauded. Um, and he's certainly, he's someone I rate. He's certainly someone, who I think once his career is done and dusted will easily be ranked inside the top 10 of all time. Possibly there's even a claim that he may well be in the top 5 of all time. I think he's justifiably up there in the same league as the likes of his cousin, Steve Austin, The Undertaker, and also the other guy who we will mention shortly. But anything you want to add?
Yeah, just like going back to what you were saying about his struggles outside the ring. Yeah, for him to carry the WWE the way he has, and look, I make no bones about the fact that I have been bored of his reign for at least a year and a half now, if not longer. I make no bones about saying that I am, but that's not a reflect. There's no reflection on the man himself. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, he's only doing what he is told to do. You know what I mean? But and I used to slate him. I used to proper slate him until I actually sat down one day and thought, you know what? There's a reason why he doesn't perform as much as he used to. There's a reason why he can't perform as much as he used to. He's not being lazy. He's not. He's not the new Brock Lesnar who just wants to perform every now and then because he can't be asked to do anything else. He had and still has a very serious medical condition, which of course is leukemia. Whether he actively has it at the moment in terms of where he needs proper treatment, no, he doesn't, as far as I'm aware. But the scars that he has from having it in the past multiple times will be there. That is why he's on medication for it. That is why he can't perform as much as he used to. People still can't get it in their heads, and I see it all the time in comments on Roman's videos, and people talking about Roman and stuff like that. You know, people always say the same thing. Oh, when he turns up, oh, well, why is he not turning up? He's just lazy. It's like, well, use your head. And I've had debates with people online about this. Oh no, it's not because of that. Where have you heard that? It's like it's fucking obvious. I don't need to hear it from anywhere. The man's had leukemia at least 3 times. That's going to take its toll on your body. I mean, I've never had leukemia myself, but it's common sense that leukemia, which is a very aggressive form of cancer, is going to take its toll on your body, especially when you're in a very physical job, which wrestling obviously is very, very physical. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to add that because, it does annoy me. And I don't slate Roman anymore. Haven't for over a year. Because, like I said, I get why he doesn't turn up very often anymore. Doesn't mean that I like his title reign now all of a sudden. I don't. I find it boring and I find that we need to move on from it. But, I respect the man. I respect the fact that he's carried the company for as long as he has. Alongside, what he's going through. I think it's amazing. The guy himself, I really like. Really nice guy. You know, um, And I have to agree with what you said. When all is said and done, and he decides to hang up his boots, he will go down as a top 10 without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, as I've said, I think he's already there as a top 10, but yeah, we will. His main event career is not done yet, so we will write that a bit. I won't call it an obituary, but we will write that legacy when the time comes. But there's certainly, I mean, there's so many superstars of WrestleMania history we can mention, but there is probably maybe one or two more, but certainly one more whom we cannot talk about wrestling history and WrestleMania history and not mention. And of course, I think you know who I'm talking about. It is
The man you can't see.
you can't. None of us can see him. And in my honest opinion, the man who also had probably the most memorable WrestleMania entrance of all time, and that is, of course, I am talking about John Cena. How can we not talk about John Cena and WrestleMania?
Well, you have to. I think I know the entrance you're talking about. Is it the entrance where there was a load of people dressed as John Cena?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought it was that one because he's had a few memorable entrances, but yeah, you're right. That is probably one of the most memorable. Um,
certainly the sort of entrance I would like if I ever make an entrance. Have loads of people dressed up like me, and no, I mean, yeah, we can't talk about WrestleMania or wrestling and not mention John Cena. He is undeniably a part of wrestling history. Um, and yeah, it does feel strange in a way not having him headline a WrestleMania anymore. But that is wrestling for you. It moves on, but and there's just so many memorable matches to mention. But I think for me, probably his most memorable one was um, his most memorable one was um, him versus The Rock at WrestleMania 29.
yeah, yeah, of course, and it's John Cena has so many memorable matches, and I have to say that some of the matches he had, I don't agree with the result. I think there's some matches he should have lost. I think I don't think he should have won the amount of matches he did. And the one that I disagree with the most was his match at WrestleMania 30 against the late great Bray Wyatt. I don't think Cena needed that win. I think Bray should have got his moment, and that would have pushed Bray further, and he would have you know been a bigger star. John Cena beat him, didn't bury him per se, because the rivalry continued. Bray did get a victory against him, but it certainly dented Bray's momentum because at that point, when he faced John Cena at WrestleMania 30, that was when Bray was really coming into his own, when the Wyatt family was really coming into their own, when they were like prime, Wyatt family, like where they were at their best. And then he went into this match at WrestleMania 30 and he lost, and it dented his momentum. And I know a lot of people agree with me on this. John Cena should not have won that match. Um, I would say that's probably the one that what one of the matches he won that I disagree with the most. I can't, none others are really coming to my head at the moment without like having a proper think. But yeah, what's your opinion on that?
My opinion on
On John Cena winning that WrestleMania 30 against Bray? Do you
Yeah, I think
agree
at
it
that
was?
moment in time it should have been an opportunity. He should have maybe put over Bray Wyatt, but I don't know what the thinking was at the time. Obviously, Bray Wyatt did get his revenge somewhat some years later. Um, albeit it was in a Firefly Firefly Funhouse match, a
Yeah,
scripted match, like a cinematic match, and obviously during a very bizarre WrestleMania where you know obviously it had to be done at the performance center, and
yeah,
indeed in the build up to that, Bray Wyatt did kind of allude to the fact that he should have got the win at WrestleMania 30.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, there's just so many memorable moments that John Cena has been involved in, and
yeah,
dare I even say this, perhaps even more so than the likes of Hulk Hogan, perhaps even more so than The Rock.
yeah.
Um,
No, I have to agree. I mean, if you think about the amount of time that John Cena carried the company, I mean, he carried the company longer than The Rock did, longer than Hulk did, um,
Longer than Austin.
longer than Austin. You know, John Cena was. I mean, he said it himself when Brock Lesnar left the company. Um, Vince was looking for a new star boy, a new, you know, superstar to step into Brock's shoes, as it was. And John Cena went to Vince and said, "Give me this chance, and I will not let you down." And the rest is history. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to say no more. I mean, Vince gave him that opportunity, and boy, did he not let him down. He went on
Exactly.
to become probably the greatest superstar of all time. Um, and if Brock never left, who knows if that would have ever happened? Maybe not. But Brock did leave, and that's what happened. Um, so yeah, I mean, John Cena definitely has a lot more memorable matches at WrestleMania than the likes of The Rock, than the likes of Hulk Hogan, than the likes of Austin. And that's no disrespect to any of them guys, although I don't care about disrespecting Hulk Hogan because I don't like the guy. But I would never disrespect Stone Cold or The Rock because I'm big fans of them. And as far as I'm aware, they're very nice guys outside the ring. So I've got nothing but respect for them too. But it's common. Well, it's pretty obvious that John Cena did have many more memorable moments at WrestleMania because he carried the company for so much longer than them two guys. Um, so yeah. Um, what do we
Well,
have?
there's a couple of wrestlers as well. I'm just looking at a list of main events of WrestleMania, and there's a couple of other wrestlers. I mean, we'll touch upon them all, but there's just three of us that I feel are legendary names that we just have to quickly mention.
Yeah.
Um, Macho Man Randy Savage, who of course um, won the WWF Championship tournament back in WrestleMania 4.
Mm,
Had a memorable main event with Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania 5. Uh, am I right in saying was that the one where him and Miss Elizabeth reunited? I can't
yeah,
remember.
I think so.
Um,
Honey.
and then of course we I forget to mention I mean I think we alluded to him, but of course Bret Hart
Yep.
had a memorable match. Twice wrestled at WrestleMania on the WrestleMania card, WrestleMania 10, beating his brother Owen in a very memorable match, and then winning the main event against Yokozuna after memorably um, jointly being declared the joint winner of the Royal Rumble against Bret Hart and Lex Luger with Bret Hart and Lex Luger. Um, Obviously, there's a bit of history there as to what happened. As you might recall, Lex Luger was meant to get his moment against Yokozuna at SummerSlam the previous year, but for whatever reason, that was nixed. They then both won the Royal Rumble. Supposedly, it was a draw, but then McMahon suddenly decided, based on the crowd reactions when both men's arms were lifted up in the air, with Bret Hart getting a bigger pop than Lex Luger, it was decided that Bret Hart was going to win the championship against Yokozuna at WrestleMania. So, if you recall, Yokozuna defended the belt earlier that night against Lex Luger. Yokozuna
Hmm.
got the win, and then Bret Hart beat Yokozuna later in the night.
Yep.
And as you might remember, an infamous moment for WrestleMania 9 when Bret Hart lost the main event to Yokozuna due to some cheating. Mr. I never leave home with my creative control without my creative control card. Hulk Hogan comes out supposedly to help out Bret Hart by challenging Yokozuna to a match there and then for the WWF title, and then beats Yokozuna in a matter of seconds, and basically everybody loses, and Hulk Hogan walks out as the WWF champion. Because basically everything has to be about Hulk Hogan.
Of course, of course.
But, obviously, wanted to mention Bret Hart and Randy Savage, and of course, one more person whom, you know, sadly, his career now came to an end. Was it last year or was it the year before where he, without making a bit of a song or a dance, just left his boots there in the ring?
Triple H.
Sorry, Triple H. And of course, we forgot to mention Roman Reigns, of course, memorably got a win against The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But no, Triple H, again, somebody who has main evented a number of WrestleManias. Certainly the first WrestleMania of the new millennium, and has been on the winning side of 3 WrestleManias, if I am not mistaken. So, again, another big name of the WrestleMania era. And now we move on to the rest, whether it's main eventers or undercards, but I'll let you start off.
I mean, I feel like we could be here all day talking about superstars of WrestleMania. I feel like we've mentioned like a lot of the legendary ones. I feel like we could literally sit here all day and talk about every single superstar that ever performed at WrestleMania. Um,
There's one moment that comes to my mind, but I'll let you go first.
I mean, we've mentioned, like I said, we mentioned a lot of legendary names. I'm struggling to think of any more,
Well, if we now
to
talk
be honest,
about
that are that memorable.
if we talk about individual moments as opposed to now people who defined WrestleMania, I mean Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania
Of course,
30,
of course,
Seth Rollins gate crashing the main event of WrestleMania 31, um, a
of course,
women's wrestling match headlining WrestleMania 35, headlining a WrestleMania for the first time,
of course,
Becky Lynch.
and that same WrestleMania as well, Kofi Mania.
Indeed, Kofi Mania. Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks when they headline night 1 of WrestleMania 37. It was significant, not just being only the second time for a women's event to headline a WrestleMania, but also 2 women of African American origin to headline
Yeah,
a WrestleMania. That was memorable. Um, for all the wrong reasons, The Miz winning the main event of WrestleMania 27, which was completely overshadowed by John Cena and The Rock.
yeah,
Um, I've just got in front of me a list of main events up to WrestleMania 35. Of course, Mr. T featuring in the main event, and Rowdy Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff as well.
hmm
It's not just about the winners. We should also mention others who featured in main events. Mick Foley, for me, very memorable one. WrestleMania 16, WrestleMania 2000. The only time he ever featured in the main event. Didn't win, but obviously it was his first and final WrestleMania main event. Um, Another of my personal favorites, Chris Jericho. I can't remember that one. But we've mentioned more or less and of course, from a British perspective, even if it was during the COVID pandemic, Drew McIntyre
yeah,
winning the WWE title at WrestleMania.
yeah,
I think those are all the sorts of main events or the more, sort of more memorable main events. But let's talk about other moments because WrestleMania is not just about the main events; it's also about other moments. And given that we have now more than one world title, obviously the world title match isn't always the main event. But there's one that I really want to mention that I think is memorable that perhaps gets forgotten, and that was Rey Mysterio winning the World Heavyweight Championship for the first time.
Of course.
Who, in very similar circumstances to a previous WrestleMania winner, Royal Rumble winner, started off either as number one or very early on, won the Royal Rumble against the odds, and then won the World Heavyweight Championship. And for me, and again, this is easily forgotten. Google it, YouTube it when you have a chance. What was very satisfying or emotional, it was the first time, obviously, he did that after Eddie Guerrero had passed away. He saluted Eddie Guerrero, and both Vicky Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero came out to celebrate with him.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, undeniably, a living legend. I've had the pleasure of meeting him twice, not just once, but twice. A living legend who perhaps should have got more memorable WrestleMania moments, but that for me was a personal enjoyment. I don't know how you feel about that one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like it is forgotten, which I don't understand. I don't get why it's forgotten. It's a very big moment, especially for Ray himself. Um, of course, doing it just after Eddie Guerrero passed away, and many people say if it hadn't been for Eddie passing away, that wouldn't have happened for Rey Mysterio. And it probably wouldn't have, but it did, and I'm glad they did that for Ray. Um, you know, it, he'd already deserved to be world champion. You know, and he never got that chance until that moment. And you know, very to me, very memorable moment. But a lot of people do forget it. A lot of people don't mention it. Um, and it's a shame because it should be mentioned. Um, um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I
Oh,
mean, go.
no, no, yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, he obviously had that moment where he beat, was it John Bradshaw Layfield in like under 20 seconds to win the IC title.
Yeah,
He's had some memorable entrances at WrestleMania with the band POD come out to perform his music, and
yeah,
um, you know, again worth googling that, YouTubing that. But here's somebody to mention. Because when we talked about Austin, we forgot to mention this. We talked about The Rock headlining a WrestleMania, but we conveniently forgot that about 2 years ago, night one of WrestleMania in Arlington, Texas,
of course.
Stone Cold Steve Austin came out to headline WrestleMania for the last time, in
Against
his
Kevin
own
Owens.
words, against Kevin Owens, who would then, of course, headline night one of WrestleMania the following year as well, beating
The
the
Usos.
Usos with Sami Zayn alongside Sami Zayn for the tag team titles. So, obviously, to talk about more recent times and more recent big stars, obviously, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who, in my opinion, are probably seen as kind of more the modern day Eddie Guerrero type figures, not necessarily seen as these big hulking
Yeah,
beasts of men headlining, but nevertheless, did did headline a WrestleMania. And of course, WrestleMania 37, Daniel Bryan once again headlined WrestleMania Night 2 alongside Edge and Roman Reigns.
yeah,
And that conveniently brings me on to the next big person I wanted to talk about, who I feel has had a lot of memorable WrestleMania moments, whether on the winning or the losing side. Edge, of
yeah,
course, who many thought was going to get his winning moment at WrestleMania 37. Whether or not he should have done, I don't know. It's difficult to say now, but it was it was great that he came back to WWE the way that he did, and they built him up the way that they did. Um, and indeed, Undertaker's final match per se at WrestleMania 36 with none other than AJ Styles,
Yeah.
whom, if rumors are to be believed, is going to be debuting some new music at WrestleMania. But I've mentioned main events and main event losers, as it were. Why don't we talk about more undercard matches or other matches?
Um. God, it's thing is with the think for me anyway, at least without having them in front of me, thinking about undercard matches and stuff like that, they're just not like they're not as memorable. So I can't. It's hard for me to out off the top of my head without having them in front of me to think about them. And
So, in terms of memorable matches, I would say there have been weirder moments, like for example that time when Braun Strowman won the tag team title with a young chap called
Nicholas,
Nicholas,
yeah,
uh, which is still a bit weird. Obviously, you had Ronda Rousey appear at WrestleMania 31, and then she had a match with Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, making Triple H tap out. And then obviously she main evented WrestleMania 35 and another WrestleMania. And obviously she's now taken to her autobiography to kind of her memoirs to kind of take a dig at WWE. So
mm,
I suppose that's all we'll say about Ronda Rousey. Charlotte Flair's had a number of memorable moments, apart from the main event of WrestleMania 35, which obviously she didn't win. I would say probably the most significant moment, and for me, it was not the right decision, was when she ended Asuka's streak.
of course,
Um, you know, which has been mentioned a lot in recent weeks. But yeah, I mean, as a WrestleMania as a package, as I've mentioned today yesterday was 23 years since WrestleMania 17, which many, including myself, seem to agree was probably the greatest WrestleMania of all time. From start to finish, every match on that card was, I would say, a 5-star affair.
yeah,
And it is certainly worth watching, even from the opening match, which is traditionally always seen as a hard sell. But I remember that opening match between Chris Jericho and William Regal for the Intercontinental title. For me, it's probably one of the best Intercontinental title matches I've ever seen. Uh, definitely, definitely worth watching.
yeah,
Another great Intercontinental title match. Of course, we mentioned it already this evening. Razor Ramon versus HBK.
yeah.
So, what other WrestleMania moments do you want to mention?
Well, I feel like what we've been talking over an hour about WrestleMania moments, and we've got what? Well, I'm gonna disappear for about 10 minutes to get some snacks and stuff. So we've got probably about 15 minutes left to talk, and I feel like um, I want to touch on this year's WrestleMania. Um, Now, not necessarily predictions per se, because we can always do that when I stream on Friday for Friday Night SmackDown. Um, but yeah, I feel like WrestleMania,
Probably too big.
WrestleMania 40. they're building up to be the biggest WrestleMania of all time. Um,
Which it will be, I think.
I'm first of all, just in general, the match card. When does Raw start? It starts, well, for me, well, for everyone, it starts in about 25 minutes. So that was just somebody commenting asking when does Raw start. Um,
1 a.m. UK time.
anyway, yeah, I mean, you're welcome. Um, I feel like the match card in general, I think, is pretty decent. There's a fair few matches that I'm looking forward to. Jimmy versus Jey Uso, that's bound to be a good match. Of course, the tag team match that is bound to main event night one between The Rock and Roman and Cody and Seth. Also looking forward to the United States Championship match between Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, and why can't Randy Orton, of course. How can I not? How could I forget Randy Orton?
Indeed, somebody we didn't mention
No, we,
in the
we
WrestleMania.
didn't. Also, AJ Styles versus LA Knight. That should be a pretty decent match, and of course, Io versus Bailey. But to be honest, as much as I like Bailey and as much as I like Io, the women's match I am more excited about is Becky versus Rhea. Um, that should be a great match. And of course, then the main event of night two, Roman versus Cody. It's a great match card, and I read something today. I don't know if you've seen it, but um, there has been a slot on, I don't know if it's night one or night two, that's been left completely blank. It's a mystery segment. Don't know what that's going to be. That's interesting. That could be a number of things. Um, that's interesting. I don't know if you read about that today or saw anything about it. Um, but yeah, very 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 interesting to say the least. It could be a number of things, like I say. Um, but yeah, what are your thoughts on the match card for this year so far?
I think it's a great card. I think it's safe for me to say that the vast majority of the attention is focused on The Rock and Roman versus Cody and Seth Rollins, and then Roman Reigns versus Cody on night two.
Of course.
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. That's not to dismiss out all the other matches on the card, but you know, it is, in my opinion, the biggest main event probably of WrestleMania in the last 10 years. Um, I'm looking forward to Bailey versus Io. I thought it was going to be a case of Bailey would lose and they would do a long drawn out process where she would get support to help her win. But it looks as though she's going to have that backup on the night. So I think Bailey walks out there with the title. I actually said on a stream earlier this evening that I feel WrestleMania 40 is going to be all about the faces winning. So that, what do I mean by that? Seth wins against Drew, Cody wins against Roman, Bailey wins against Io. Gunter, I don't necessarily view as a heel, but I still think he will win. The one that's a bit trickier for me to predict is Rhea versus Becky.
No, I don't think that's difficult to predict at all. I think Becky's winning that all day long.
Well, there's a lot of people who seem to think that Rhea's going to win that, but I also think So here's the thing: I don't think the Judgment Day are going to have a good night at WrestleMania.
No.
They're not going to have a good weekend. I think they're going to lose their tag team titles, and I think there's a high possibility Damian Priest's cash in will fail.
Yeah.
But I don't know where or how he is going to cash that in.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that WrestleMania will spell the downfall of Judgment Day. I think undoubtedly, I think a Rhea Ripley face turn is on the horizon. I mean, she's already getting massive cheers. Um, so I think it's only right to turn her face in the very near future. I think with her match with Becky, Becky is being portrayed as the underdog. Becky herself even said that she thinks Rhea is better than her, so she has to prove that she's not. I think that that sort of story makes no sense for the face to lose or the underdog to lose. I think it makes sense for Becky to overcome Rhea, to overcome her insecurities about Rhea being better than her. Um, so that's why I think Becky's winning. I also believe that Becky's um, Becky's contract comes to um, her contract is up in 2 months. I believe that Becky won at WrestleMania to sweeten the deal and make her 100% definitely re-sign. Um, yeah, I think Becky definitely wins. I have a comment here um, from Mia San Mia. She says, in my opinion, Rollins and Cody should lose on Saturday, as this brings more tension and excitement for the main event on Sunday, as Bloodline rules. Could mean anything, maybe even The Rock intervening in favour of Cody. Who knows? Interesting. I think that's what will happen. I think Rollins and Cody will lose on night one, setting up Bloodline rules so that The Rock can interfere. He will look like he's interfering on behalf of Roman, and then he will turn on Roman and help Cody. Well, not really help Cody, but just cost Roman so that they can set up their match at next year's WrestleMania. Um, yeah, I think that's what will happen. But yeah, very, very good prediction there. That's very similar to my prediction of what I think is going to happen. Um,
Yeah, no, I am very confident that Rock and Roman Reigns are going to get the win on night one. It's going to set up very nicely for night two. As I said, I'm not 100% sure how or whether or how The Rock will intervene on behalf of Cody, but one thing that I think would be for certain is that Cody is not going to be without support in that main event. And I've been putting my idea on another wrestling stream, which nobody seems to be paying attention to, but I hope people pay attention here. But here's how I think night two will end. It will be Cody will come into the match injured. He'll get beaten down by the bloodline, but he'll keep fighting back. It'll be a true battle. Slowly, you're going to get all the different faces come out to help Cody, as in people who the bloodline have, you know, slighted over the years. So people like Seth Rollins, people like Sami Zayn, people like Kevin Owens, people like Jey Uso. Possibly Jimmy Uso might even turn on the bloodline. We shall see. But I think it's going to be a massive brawl between a lot of heels and a lot of faces. You might get Drew McIntyre coming out to help out the bloodline. Then you might get other faces come out to help. And I reckon, as bizarre as this might sound, you might have Steve Austin and John Cena come out to help Cody and maybe stick one to The Rock. I'm sure a lot of fans would love to see that Stone Cold delivering a stunner to The Rock one more time at WrestleMania.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that Stone Cold and John Cena are going to be there at WrestleMania weekend. I mean, you can't have the biggest WrestleMania of all time and not have the likes of Stone Cold, John Cena,
Well, the
Hulk
thing
Hogan.
is,
As much as I don't want him there,
the bad news is Hulk Hogan is confirmed to be at WrestleMania weekend. He's charging something like $400 for an autograph.
I mean, it makes sense that he's there. I don't agree with the whole autograph thing, but it makes sense that he's there. As much as I would rather him not be there.
Well, as long as he keeps his creative control card in his wallet and
Yeah, and he doesn't go
doesn't
out.
just
He doesn't go out and just says, "I'm going to be in the main event, brother," and then pins
he'll,
Roman.
he'll probably win the main event somehow and just walk out with the title, and everyone will just look confused.
Yeah, but yeah,
You know.
I mean,
But I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a massive brawl between everyone coming out to help Cody, and then at the end you'll see Cody celebrating with all the good guys.
yeah. Mia says that would be incredible if Stone Cold Steve Austin or Cena would interfere. It would be. I mean, they're going to be there. They're going to be there. So why not? Why not have them interfere in some way? I mean,
Well,
I
let's see
suppose
what happens.
it just makes sense in terms of John Cena at the very least, anyway, because John Cena did have a match with Roman. He was involved in Roman's story and the Bloodline story at one point. So I suppose it just makes sense because Roman did beat John Cena. Obviously, Stone Cold Steve Austin's not really had any involvement with Roman, but he'd probably come out more to for The Rock more than anything else. Um,
I mean, Triple H, I don't know if he can take a bump anymore, but you know, Triple H is supposedly the Undertaker's going to be around. It would be nice to see all these people come out and you know help out
well,
help
yeah,
out Cody.
it would. It would. I mean, one thing's for sure, we are going to have an incredible weekend this weekend. I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think, it's going to be an incredible weekend. I have to say, it's for the first time in about, I'd say, 4 years. This is probably the WrestleMania I've been looking forward to in for the past 4 years. Um, it's going to be incredible. Um, I hope the matches that I'm looking forward to don't disappoint. I'm sure they won't. Um, and yeah, I think that is where I'm going to just take a short break before Raw starts to get some snacks and drink.
Sure.
Um,
I mean,
and
it's been good having a good chat
It
about the
has.
history
I
of.
mean, we can always continue this chat before SmackDown on Friday, because I will be streaming that as well, so I can go live a little bit earlier and we can continue this chat and make our predictions then for our official predictions for WrestleMania. Um, so yeah, but like I said, that's where I'm going to take a short break. I'll be back for the start of Raw. To be honest, I have no idea what's happening on Raw.
Well, we've got the Rock and Roman Reigns, haven't we?
Of course, I forgot that they were appearing on Raw, but that's all I know. I don't know anything else. I don't think CM Punk's gonna be there. I've not heard anything about that. But yeah, I don't know what else is happening. But it's bound to be a decent WrestleMania Raw because it's the Raw before WrestleMania. Mia says, "Nice chatting with you. I dropped you a follow. See you on Friday." I mean, I'm still gonna be here. I'm only taking a short break. I'm not ending the stream. We are gonna be here for the entirety of Raw, so you're welcome to stick around. And of course, you're welcome to join the stream on Friday as well for to chat more. Up to you. And I will be back shortly.
I too will take a break to get some snacks.
Hello, everybody. I'm back, and Raw is about to start. Let me get it loaded up. Yeah, literally just about to start as I loaded it up. That was good timing. Just turn that down a bit. We don't want that loud. Then no. Wonder what they're gonna kick off Raw with. Okay, so they're just showing what happened last week.
I think I might be about a minute or so behind you.
Oh, really? Not usually that far behind me.
As much as I don't want to see The Rock turn on Cody, it would both make sense and not make sense. It would make sense in the given that Cody was essentially the one who brought The Rock into the feud in the first place, if you remember.
Yeah.
And then it wouldn't make sense given the way The Rock's beaten down Cody to then just suddenly turn and help Cody on at the main event. It just wouldn't make sense.
I mean, it could be a case of, you know, it could be the case of that Roman, because Roman uh, called in this hit. I wanted The Rock to do this, so it could be a case of The Rock's done this to make Roman trust him 100%, only to turn on him. In that way, it would make sense.
Maybe.
because it would be like, well, you know, I didn't do it of my own accord. Roman ordered the hit. He's a tribal
But then
chief. You know
it
what I
kind of
mean?
makes Cody look a little bit weak that he had to rely on somebody turning on Roman just to win, or that he was in it all along.
I don't think many of us, if Cody wins, will care about whether he looks weak. I think we just want, a lot of people just want this title off Roman. Oh, okay, they're kicking off with The Rock,
The boss.
the final boss. Is is Roman gonna come out now, or is he gonna be later? I would imagine he'd come out now. His first match in 8 years, so they're really gonna count him against Eric Rowan as a match, right? I would say it's his first proper match in 12 years. No, 11 years. So Cody's here tonight as well, apparently. It'll be interesting to see what he has to say.
The Rock.
Oh. I'm expecting somebody to interrupt him.
What a man attitude. There are moments in life where we gotta do what we got to do. There are moments in life where people stick their nose in businesses that it doesn't belong. There are moments in life where people talk when they should be talking. And that's exactly what Cody Rhodes did. So there are moments in life like now where The Rock has just got to beat that punk ass down over and over and over again. We are 5 days out from WrestleMania. Do you feel that pulling? Or do you feeling the mana? Because right now, professional wrestling is cool.
Not a bad promo here from The Rock.
No.
Right now,
And here comes Roman.
largest gate in the history of Raw ever. Congratulations.
Let's see what Roman has to say.
To the main event of WrestleMania for a ninth time in his career. Then you already know this. But if you look at my hoodie, you'll clearly understand that it's family of my heart. That's how I've always felt. That's how I've always operated. And I wouldn't come to work for a reason. No. I came here to acknowledge my family. Continue with that.
The fans yeeting Roman. That's funny.
It's extremely transparent. This is going to be the easiest WrestleMania of my life. Team match to determine the stipulation for Sunday night. I mean, come on. We're going to smash those fools. And then his bloodline rolls on Sunday, and that means we're going to have our way with Cody. For that, I'd like to say thank you, brother. But that's not it. No. He went above and beyond as he usually does. He made that boy bleed. You've seen it. If you didn't watch it, you've seen it all over the internet. He loves it. And it's not that he needed him to do it, but damn, did it feel good to see him do it, son. So for that, thank my God. Because it's your family. After all, just like me, that sets the example that only the final boss can set. That's how you lead. A tag team match? Cody, he's not fit for these shoes. He's not fit for leadership. I told you guys he's a politician. Come on. He's lucky to be here. Because when we started making this thing Sunday again back in 2020, he was off somewhere doing a whole lot of nothing. And then he saw what the tribal chief was doing, and he's like, my God, I need to be up there. No, he went above and beyond. Generous. We allowed him to have a little bit of fun. We allowed you in these open doors, but enough is enough. We can't have you trying to take me off the top of the mountain. My children can't have that. Children can't have that. The final boss's children, we can't have that. This is our mountain. We run this business. It feels good to see him do it. Sunday, it ain't ever gonna be more for that.
Right, here comes Seth.
The family above of all, just like me, and that sets the example that only the final boss will set. He's lucky to be here. Because when we were 20, he was off somewhere doing a whole lot of nothing. And then he saw, God, I need to be harder. And we were nice, we were generous. We allowed you to have a little bit of fun. We allowed you in these open doors, but enough is enough. We can't trying to take me off the top of the mountain. My children can't have that. The Usos' children, Final Boss's children, we can't have that. We run this business. And on Sunday, it ain't ever gonna be more crystal. That big wing shot straight before. Roman should know this entrance well. WrestleMania 5 days away. Biggest WrestleMania of all time. Tonight here in Brooklyn. Biggest Monday Night Raw of all time. Walking is what you want. You want to pull that crap on me? You gotta come on up here, fight the whole Brooklyn. Here because of you, right? You think you're responsible for all of these people filing into this building tonight?
What's Seth gonna suggest?
You put your money. I feel the time for talk is over. I'm ready for a fight. How about tonight in the main event? It's Seth freaking Rollins. WrestleMania final boss. I wanna fight.
Wow.
So here's what I'm saying. WrestleMania 5 days away. Biggest WrestleMania of all time. Tonight, Monday Night Raw of all time. I think Brooklyn, you deserve a biggest of all. I'd be more than happy to take on Roman Reigns in the main event tonight. I'll leave it all up to you. You guys pick who wants to fight the real champ. Who's it gonna be? You can even name the stipulation. All these people firing for the bloodline rules. We can do a ladder match. We can do first blood match if that's your thing. The fall. How about tonight? Main event. Seth freaking Rollins versus the final boss. The Rock. you not see what The Rock did to your partner last week? Beat his brains in. So bad that boy got brain damage. Friday night, I need more than happy. You don't want none of that. You don't want none of it at WrestleMania. You don't want none of it tonight. Leave it all up to you. You ain't gonna fight The Rock, boy. To fight the real champ. You ain't gonna fight Roman Reigns, boy. You can even name the stipulation. We can do this in a cage. We can do these stupid little bloodline rules. We can do a ladder. Shut your mouth and enjoy the ride that The Rock is taking you on. Who's got the ball? Crazy son of a bitch. The Rock knows it. You ain't fighting us. However, we always got a plan. The Rock tell you something right now, punk. You come out here, you run your mouth. You challenge The Rock. You challenge Roman Reigns. You challenge the most dominant Universal Champion in the history of WWE. You challenge a final boss. Did you not see what The Rock did to your partner last week? Beat his brains in. So bad that boy's got brain damage. You don't want none of that. You don't want none of it. You don't want none of it. You ain't gonna fight The Rock, boy. You ain't gonna fight Roman Reigns, boy. You sit there, shut your mouth, and enjoy the ride that The Rock is taking you on. Solo's got the biggest bag in the bloodline. You're a tough, crazy bitch. The Rock knows it. You ain't fighting us. However, we always got a plan. Solo, the biggest Raw of all time. Leading into the biggest WrestleMania of all time. Tonight, one-on-one. Now here's the thing. Bloodline rules.
Well, that was disappointing. Got us all excited thinking that The Rock was going to fight on Raw or Roman was going to fight on Raw, and then we get fucking Solo.
Of all time. Biggest WrestleMania of all time. Tonight, one-on-one. But here's the thing. We'll see you tonight, boy. I'm sorry, she told me to ignore it. How Seth Rollins knows what Why would you ever sign up for that other than that?
Oh dear. Well,
Yep. Oh, wow.
same fire that I saw last Monday, then it excites me.
So we've moved on to Rhea and Becky now.
Mind if I pick it up? All right. I'm gonna pick it up. Here's calling this. I'm sorry. She told me to ignore it.
No, here comes the New Day. I'm assuming that the first hour of Raw must be commercial free because we've not had a commercial yet.
Yeah, that's what Michael Cole said in the beginning.
I didn't hear that.
It's that Nottingham Forest banner I see on the wall.
I
You
didn't.
see that behind Rhea Ripley? There's Nottingham Forest
I
banner.
didn't. I didn't see that. Must have missed that.
Ladders of the ring.
DIY New Day completely in control at the moment.
Television sellout, heading into WrestleMania and the best to get on Monday Night Raw. Even Gunna legal man for a police IY. DIY. Magical run. 20 minutes. Tremendous. 20 minutes. The judge comes on and JD McDonough dies. This matchup for his team. What WrestleMania? The new day over the years. Never won a wrestle. He's never won a wrestle. Are all singing the same tune. You did including run as NXT tag champion. Nielsen,
Oof. Oh my god, what a boot. Priest in complete control. Looking to finish the match. Oh. Oh, and he could have just finished it. And he does. In dominant fashion.
One of these things, Tommaso Ciampa gets taken out by Damian Priest. That Priest means business now. Tommaso Ciampa up high, Damian
Oh, right, okay. I don't agree with that whatsoever.
What did he say?
Well, I don't want to tell you. I want you to hear it and get your natural reaction and see if you disagree as much as I do.
What, that Roman Reigns is going to induct Paul Heyman?
Now, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. To me,
It is what it is what it is.
to me, okay, yeah, I know that, Paul Heyman's career has been centered around Roman for the past, 4 years? But that's like 4 years out of a 20-plus year career. Makes no sense. Makes no sense to me. I disagree completely.
You're right, the wise man speech. That's the beginning. Hall of Fame.
To me, that's sort of spoilt the Hall of Fame. I was hoping for somebody different. I was hoping for somebody maybe we've not seen for a while.
Understand. What you just learned is that the tribal chief will induct the wise man to the Hall of Fame this Friday.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't catch that, Roman Reigns will be the one to induct Paul Heyman into the Hall of Fame on Friday after SmackDown.
It's going to be a long Friday night.
I mean, I don't know how you all feel about that. I'm not happy about it, but
It is what it is. They wanted to get the biggest superstar they could to induct him on paper. That would have been Roman Reigns in terms of the people he's worked with. There were no shortage of individuals they could have had, whether it was CM Punk, Triple H, a former ECW guy, even The Undertaker, with whom he did work with back in WCW. But they went with Roman Reigns. Excuse me, they went with Roman Reigns in the end.
What the hell was that? What the hell was that, Chad? You think Gunther's gonna care if you're exhausted? No, get up, run it again. You're not running it again, no. I don't know what I'm thinking, letting you run me into the ground 1 week before this match. What do you think, I'm not good enough? Oh, no. You're better than good enough. But what is main event at WrestleMania last year? All right, but that's when you had the hunger. And that hunger's gone.
inspirational speech from Chad Gable.
What we're doing here, but you won't let it out. What's holding you back? Yes, I did. How does he hold everything? Why are you I'm afraid, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I'm afraid of letting people down. I'm afraid of letting myself down. Everyone who's believed in me, I'm afraid, okay? I'm afraid of seeing that disappointment on my wife's face again. I'm afraid that my son's face, the way I saw them stream down your daughter's cheeks. Don't you get that? You get that, Chad? Do you understand that? Sammy, I understand that better than anything. I know that you get it, okay? I do. But you still looked me right in the eyes and you told me you don't believe I can be good. You can't be good. I wasn't telling you what you wanted to hear. I was telling you what you needed to hear.
Oh,
People are doubting it. So let's find that
whoa, let's go.
and then draw together.
So a rematch from last Monday. Sami Zayn versus Big Bronson Reed. Andre the Giant Battle Royal on SmackDown. Jey Uso versus Solo Sikoa. And there we go, our first commercial break.
Friday. On the eve of the biggest WrestleMania. WrestleMania live from Philadelphia, Friday, East Central, only Fox.
So what do we think to that first hour of Raw?
I hoped we would have seen Seth versus The Rock, but
I know, like, I don't. It's annoying that, you know, got us all excited for the potential of Seth versus Roman or Seth versus Rock, and then we get Solo. Right? Why even mention it? Just like have them. If they'd never mentioned it, I wouldn't be arsed. I'd be like, oh, that's not a bad main event, you know, Bloodline rules, but get us excited for Roman versus Seth or Rock versus Seth, and then just do that to us. Seems a bit shit.
There's the big dance. It's great to be here. The music, the magic, the madness. It's time to dance. At Planet Fitness, you can get energy without the upset. Hello? Roy, it's Bobby from Iron Flag. Hey, can we interest you in upgrading to Muscle Elite for $99.99? No, thank you. Wow, I just got the go-ahead from my manager to double upgrade you for $149.99. Comes with a mini neckband. This is better. Get a membership that fits your budget. Never pushy, always free fitness training, equipment for every workout. Join the judgment-free zone today. Deal ends Friday, April 12th. The new $1.99 Sonic Crispy Tender Wraps are here for a limited time in bold flavors, like hickory barbecue or cheesy Baja. Give yourself some TLC, tender, love, and chicken for only $1.99. Sonic Crispy Tender Wraps. You've earned this, so hold it up high. Because it's the things you make that show what you made of. You are a fighter, and this is your reward. Go, mark of a fighter. Hi, I'm John Fiorentino, inventor of the Moon Pod, a breakthrough in therapeutic relaxation that's changing the way the world sits. Moon Pod's zero gravity technology helps to eliminate back pain, stress, and anxiety, by responding to every inch of your body. And now, with the new Crescent Backrest and Lunar Leg Lift, MoonPod will take you to relaxation levels that you've never felt before. Experience the difference at moonpod.co.
More than 100 million Americans rent, but more than 97% of renters don't get credit for paying their rent on time. With Self, you can change all that and build credit just by paying your rent. Free credit building for renters. Download Self to start today. It's lunchtime and Gary is double booked. Good thing Gary's company uses Otter's AI meeting assistant to take notes and generate a summary. So Gary doesn't miss a meeting and can regain his lunch break. Try now for free. Visit otter.ai or download the app.
You already know. NXT brings the wins. Buckle up. This is it. Excusez-moi, muchachos. Moi, Italien devrait défendre nos 2 titres contre 5 équipes à WrestleMania dans un match à échelle. Tout le monde sait que je n'aime pas les échelles. Il a le vertige. Comment sérieux? C'est le plus grand WrestleMania de tous les temps. Voyez ça comme ça. Si vous gagnez, vous deviendrez le plus grand clan de toute l'histoire. Lance le match.
The road to WrestleMania is unpredictable. But this year, one thing's for sure. Philly is scared. WWE World at WrestleMania, the ultimate 5-day fan experience and the first ever WWE fan event with fanatics. Meet and greet favorite stars. Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Randy Orton, CM Punk, and more. Be there for the first ever WWE gaming tournament, WWE 2K Showdown. Create your unforgettable superstar entrance. And check out the can't-miss Pat McAfee Show live with must-see guests.
Go!
Tens of thousands of tickets have already been sold. So get yours now and finish your story at WWE World.
And WWE World at WrestleMania kicks off this week in Philadelphia at the Pennsylvania Convention Center due to such high demand. Today, WWE announced additional VIP daily on Thursday, Dirty Dom on Sunday, and LA Night next Monday. General admission ticket holders can purchase VIP tickets for the e-drinks at fanatics.com/WWE. A lot of good things doing. Put Dom out for a meeting seems to be working backwards.
I guess we are ready for WrestleMania, huh?
Ready. Oh, hey, we sold one down.
Yeah, I'm good. Hey!
Por esta invitación.
You didn't tell us we could come here.
Oye, ven acá. We gave you our blessing to handle your father at WrestleMania, but this is too much. Cut the crap. I'm not gonna make a call.
You've done it now. I'm not the priest. Maybe tell him not to get so mean. Hey, fine. I'll talk to priest. But remember, we need to get this communications situation working again. Yeah? Yeah? Talk to me next time.
Anyways,
Deal with your friends.
Legal Fantasma, me, Judgment Day, Mami, JD, Finn. Hey.
Gracias por invitarnos a su guarida. Qué rico huele.
No? Hey, how about we play some darts? Here, I got you. Aldo. No, not you. Dominant that they get on the same page. Nonetheless, have you ever seen a worse one? We are looking ahead to WrestleMania Saturday. Gunther as of tonight, 661 days. Longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. Can Sami Zayn pull off
Here
the
the match
upset
begins.
this Saturday? Seems like he has his confidence back. Nice. I think Jack Gable went to work. Testing the limits of where Sami can go. Speaking of testing the limits, spandex on this man. What a monster.
That's up from Sammy.
Monday Night Raw. Big Bronson Reed actually got the win over Sami Zayn last week. Gunther came out and distracted Sami. Sami Zayn was rolling. In fact, he had Bronson Reed down and in trouble before, as you mentioned, Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion, would come out into the arena, cause the distraction, which allowed Bronson Reed to make Sami Zayn pay. The tsunami from the top rope. Will Reed do that again tonight? Or will Sami Zayn prove to the world they can knock off the big man?
Gunther enjoyed toying with Sami. Head games, the mind games, which Chad Gable was trying to work with Sami Zayn.
Yeah, again, Chad trying to tell Sami Zayn, you need to get your hunger back. You need to get your confidence back. You can knock off Gunther. And listen, if Sami can knock off a big man like Big Bronson Reed tonight, it just gives him even more confidence heading into Saturday.
A great sparring partner going into championship weekend. Pretty similar traits. And I will say, Brunson much more wide
Yeah,
than tall.
330 pounds as Bronson misses Wiley with the chop, and Sami Zayn continues on the attack in the corner.
You can't mimic a Gunther completely, but you certainly can punch it 10 times.
And again, there's the power of Reed. Hit right to the midsection. And Sami Zayn driven down to the mat.
I can't speak without the Academy Chad Gable earlier about the workout he had with Sami Zayn. Mentally, physically, spiritually trying to work on him at the Alpha Academy. Feels like Sami drew in all three phases.
Sami, here's the pinning combination. And a kick out by Reed at 2. The back, obviously, you're a professional athlete, once played in a Super Bowl, all-decade punter with the Colts. And the question I have is this, is you can really get in your own head as a professional athlete, right? Even when things aren't
Absolutely.
But I hope everyone that was celebrating it had a good Easter, by the way.
Especially in something we got to react to move quick.
Yeah, indeed,
You
indeed.
start overthinking, slows you down, takes
I
away
didn't do a lot. I was working for most of it.
Sami.
But yeah, I hope
He's had
everyone
to
had a good
remind
Easter.
himself that he's champion. That's why everybody's talking Rocky. Obviously, sure, Rocky 4 here. Champion who had to find himself again. I think he's done it.
Oh, and another big chop by Bronson Reed. Now, has he done it, or is he trying to convince himself? You know, he talked about letting people down. He still hasn't forgotten Montreal a year ago this past February when he had an opportunity to knock off Roman Reigns, win the Undisputed Championship, but just couldn't quite get the job done in his hometown of Montreal. Sami up over the top rope, down goes Reed.
There's a chance that Sami Zayn stopped appreciating every single fight and only started thinking about the big fights. Took his eye off the ball, maybe.
But Sami can win the big matches.
Absolutely. WrestleMania will tell you as such.
Yeah, main event last year, WrestleMania Saturday, Sami and Kevin Owens knocking off the Usos for the tag titles.
He was an honorary Uso in the bloodline.
Sami top rope crossbody caught, though, by Bronson Reed, who drives him spine first into the turnbuckle, running power slam, cover kick out by Zayn at 2.
Good for Sami. Having to continue to build the calluses.
And the coach, Chad Gable, looking on. Chad Gable, obviously a former U.S. Olympian, he's done wonders with his Alpha Academy, trying to bring the same to Sami Zayn.
He's a 1% bonus. Incredibly intelligent. He's a doctor or something.
Sami, second rope, elbow to the top of the skull of Reed, down to one knee. Sami Zayn looking to rally yet again. Sami with another elbow. Reed this time down to the knee again. Sami Zayn, second rope. And the third elbow he's caught. Uranagi just plants Sami. Elbow to the chest. Cover by big Bronson Reed. And Sami stays in it.
330 pounds dropping down on your sternum.
Another commercial break.
Yeah, the guts, the heart, the resilience that really has been emblematic of the career of Sami Zayn. Big Bronson Reed. Sami with that never say die attitude. Always in the fight. He's got to keep that in mind as he heads into WrestleMania. If he survives tonight, because Bronson Reed, with Sami on his shoulders, high above the ring, Sami looking for a sunset flip powerbomb for the win. Cover. And Reed at 2, an air fall for Sami. And now this is where Sami can't get in his own head, Pat. You've got to realize, listen, I have to keep down. I've got him on the ropes. Keep up the attack. Don't be a robot either. You can keep your moxie and stay on task. Look, Sammy's bouncing that right now. Sami Zayn. I'm not sure how wise this strategy is. Trying to let the 330-pounder off his feet. And now Bronson Reed with ease. Lifts Sammy up and drives him. Cover.
Oh, pardon me.
Got by Sami Zayn. Sammy's still out. Somehow.
Home warranty.
Focus.
Yes, focus on an American Home Shield warranty. It can protect your covered home systems and appliances, like this AC, with a repair or replacement.
Yes, thank you.
Home.
It's home, not home.
Yeah, it's home. Pretty sure it's home. American Home Shield. Don't worry, be warranty.
So, what'd you get?
2 Nashville hot tenders and 3 Mandarin orange tenders.
Nice. What about you?
3 classic tenders.
4 butterfly shrimp. 4 of a kind, baby. I win. Ooh.
Oh, is it always a competition?
I am the shrimp bot. Excuse me, would you mind taking a picture of us? Oh, no problem. Thanks. Yes, problem. You need Verizon. Trade in that old thing and get a new iPhone 15 Pro with tons of storage, so you can take all the pics. So many selfies.
A preposterous amount of panos!
That means panoramic. And as many portraits of me as your heart desires.
How about none?
None, yeah,
Still
none,
there.
that's right.
Yeah.
Trade in any iPhone in any condition and get iPhone 15 Pro and iPad and Apple Watch SE all on us. Only on Verizon.
This feels funny. Where did they go? Did you see anything? They're talking. Every instinct in me says this is death.
You need to go down there.
I'm with you.
I've never been scared like that before.
Go, go, go! Fire!
Civil War. Rated R. Choose IMAX April 12. At Matt Howie says Taco Bell only really hits after midnight, which is why I'm going to use the Cantina chicken menu to help him see the Taco Bell light. Very juicy. Hi. The food hits, right? Are you at Matt Howie? Does it hit or does it not hit? I'd say it hits. It does hit. I feel live. Okay, but you did. Maybe. The Cantina Chicken Crispy Taco isn't just for late night. We're making a splash with the Twisted Tea Challenge. Twisted Tea fans love the smooth, refreshing taste of Twisted Tea Hard Ice Cream. Hard Ice Tea. Keep it twisted.
This will be the last moment you ever think of soda as being
We're
dirty
back from
bird.
commercial break.
And that's because this soda, Poppy,
Who's going to
has
win this match? Sami Zayn, Bronson Reed.
but that's all the flavor. The future of soda is now.
I'm going Sami Zayn because he lost last week.
One year I had over $900 in banking fees. I had enough. I switched to Chime. There's no overdraft fees, no monthly fees. I'm saving hundreds for my daughter's future. For a normal guy like me, I've given myself a small raise. Join me at Chime.com.
Self can securely report your positive rent payments to all 3 credit bureaus for free. Quicker than it takes your landlord to finally get around to fixing that leaky ceiling. Rebuild your credit score with positive payment history for free. With Self.
Jerry goes off grid almost every weekend, but now, a Friday last-minute meeting? Otter has Jerry covered with an AI meeting assistant to take notes and capture action items, so Jerry can go camping and be ready for Monday. Sign up for free. Visit otter.ai or download the app.
You know, Pat, Sami Zayn has showed some flurries here tonight, but hasn't been able to sustain a run against Bronson Reed, who's now dominating. Yeah, Bronson Reed seeming to stop every single turn that he has tried to make. Sami Zayn over the past week has been training the Alpha Academy's Bad Gable, training to get ready for the seemingly impossible task of knocking off Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship on WrestleMania Saturday. Actually got a sneak peek at the Alpha Academy training. We've never seen that before. Very intense, and Sami Zayn fighting back. Now Sami Tornado DDT as he lets the tightrope cover. Over the leg for the win. Knee kicks. Sammy can sense it. He's close. He's just got to remind himself, let's close the door here, Sammy. And let's put the game away. Jack Gable's in the back yelling at a TV, I assume. Telling Sammy to stay focused because Bronson Reed can change things. Just like that front face lock. Bronson sends Sammy to the corner. Sammy looking for an exploder suplex. And again, not quite sure about the strategy with Sammy here tonight, trying to overpower the big man. Bronson Reed, however, forced his suplex, turns it into a senton. Reed can power you. Yes, he can play the power game. Sammy's not going to do that against a 330-pounder. Reed don't know if he's trying it. Reed can also have quickie, which is why he's such a weapon. Drops him onto the top rope, looking for the tsunami perhaps. Sami Zayn uses the quickness to get back to his feet. Bowling ballers on the second rope. With WrestleMania looming in 5 months, Sami Zayn and his date with Destiny against Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. Trying to build some momentum and knock off Big Bronson Reed. Reed with an opportunity now with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is down. Bronson Reed now top ropes the cover. Nobody home. And Sami's got an opportunity. Bronson Reed landed on Sami last week. Just one sign that he's gotten better from one workout with the Alpha Academy. And Sami looking for it. Oh my goodness. Oh no. Gunther, the Intercontinental Champion, drawing focus of Chad Gable out into the entranceway. This is unbecoming of Gunther, the ring general. And again, playing the mind games with Sami Zayn, who now rushes to the aid of his fallen coach, Chad Gable, who was obviously assaulted by Gunther. And now Gunther with a cheap attack. Sami Zayn is on his knees. What the hell is the ring general doing? Beat the hell out of his opponent on Saturday. Never seen Gunther feel obligated to do this. Gunther believes Sami Zayn does not deserve to be in the same ring with him. That's what he's saying. Despite the fact that Sami ran a gauntlet to earn the opportunity. Now Gunther just beating the hell out of Zayn. A relentless attack. Sami had expressed self-doubt. Sami's back on top. Defiant Sami Zayn is back on his feet, and this time using the championship.
Ricky. I know you got a big schedule, but is that on the trip? Man, hey, I'm from Philly. WrestleMania 40. I'm whoop my brother ass. Chuck, tell him what's up.
I'm gonna be there. You know what? I'm bringing my single world premiere. WrestleMania, you know it.
Say less. Say less. I'ma see you. I'ma see you. Yeah.
Easy zone. Real damage control is going to be at WrestleMania. They're also going to be here tonight. In action later on. A Monday Night Raw. We're going to do.
For Cowboys, it may look fun.
Relentless. We could lose everything.
We'd rather die than watch this place go down.
The McPhee Dynasty. New episode now on USA. All episodes streaming now on Peacock.
New Kinder Chocolate. Delicious little bars of smooth milk chocolate with a creamy, milky. For being a kid, let that kid flag fly.
This is the mark of a fighter. A rich, full-flavored lager with a crisp, refreshing flavor. The reward for you've earned it. Home and hot. Without mark.
Give me that. Give me that quick. Better get you some. Try the trio before it's gone.
My mother used to tell me. Until they face the potato, the white ink, are destined to speak.
The Cantina Chicken Burrito isn't just for bake night, because it keeps it light with slow-roasted shredded chicken and finely shredded purple cabbage in a freshly grilled tortilla that's not shredded. Introducing the new Cantina Chicken Burrito, only at Taco Bell.
With that amazing camera, I'll be sharing pics from this flow. You do not want to see yourself skiing. You look like a marshmallow.
Join now. Only T-Mobile gives you 4 new iPhone 15s on us and 4 lines one for $25 a line.
There's a way to cut your dishwashing time by 50%. Try Dawn Power Wash Dish Spray. It removes 99% of grease and grime in half the time. It cleans so well, you can replace multiple cleaning products. Try Dawn Power Wash.
When life calls for a little comfort, peanut butter M&Ms.
He's here. Anyone want a Coors Light?
Oh, shoot, I forgot to play the song. I gotta go. Who can fix this?
They need the lawn back fast. The new Scott's turf builder rapid grass. It grows grass 2 times faster than the seed lawn, giving you a stronger lawn. Smell the freedom, eh?
Get Scott's Turf Builder Rapid Grass today. It's guaranteed.
Feed the lawn. Feed it.
New Kinder Chocolate. Delicious little bars of smooth milk chocolate with a creamy, milky center. Made for being a kid. Let that kid flag fly.
streaming exclusively on Peacock.
And the breaking news came earlier tonight, as first posted by The Rock on his Instagram story. The Rock will induct his grandmother, Leah Maivia, into the 2024 WWE Hall of Fame. Incredible class, including Paul Heyman, going in Philadelphia, and guess who's going to induct the wife? Our tribal chief. Indeed, Roman Reigns told us earlier tonight that he will induct Paul Heyman into the WWE Hall of Fame this coming Friday night, immediately following SmackDown on Peacock.
I learned a lot about Leah Maivia and young Roman. You had a chance, show.
There's the wife of the high chief, Peter Maivia. Give Ivy Nile so much credit. She's really been spending a lot of time making Maxine better in the ring. Help her be more competitive.
I'm gonna try and push on Lanes and on with the stream, but I keep falling asleep. I'm trying to push through because this is WrestleMania week. I want to do, tonight and on Friday and then WrestleMania weekend. But if I keep falling asleep, there's no point doing the stream, is there? Because you don't want to just watch me sleep. So I'm trying and push through. We'll see how we go.
Candice LeRae has been doing everything in her power to win, and she's been doing that as of late. Even last week, feigning an injury to pick up a victory. Indy Hartwell, her partner, does not seem to be too pleased with Candice LeRae's recent actions.
Yeah, Indy Hartwell is kind of put in a spot here by Candice LeRae. She's guilty by association. Candice has been acting like one of the most despicable humans you can be in the WWE over the last few weeks, and Indy Hartwell has to be her tag team partner. We'll see how that comes together, but Candice has been winning, so is Indy, so I guess
I'm not condoning the actions of Candice LeRae.
you kind of did, though. You said, like, win.
But she's been winning, right? And that's the name of the game.
Yeah, but how has she been doing it, Cole?
Dirty tactics. Hey, you surround yourself with some despicable human beings, like Connor, for instance, on your show, so you know what it's all about. That's what Indy Hartwell is going through at this point. I mean, she's known Candice for years. They've been best friends for years, but she's been taken aback by these recent actions of this woman that she thought she knew so well.
None of my guys are near as bad as you.
Okay. Now Indy Hartwell goes to work on Ivy Nile. Indy, of course, a former NXT Women's Champion. Want to remind everyone, NXT Stand and Deliver comes your way Saturday, high noon, 9 in the morning on Peacock, WrestleMania Saturday. Tag made. Here comes Maxine Dupree. Maxine off the second rope and goes to work on Indy.
Maxine, Ivy, Chad Gable, working to make her the best superstar she could possibly be, but Indy Hartwell is, very experienced in the game, very good, as is Candice LeRae. Maxine might get exposed to it.
Now Candice LeRae goes to work. She will show no remorse.
Now, Ivy now trying to make the business better. Candice LeRae's trying to do the complete opposite. Throwing Maxine's head into the turnbuckle. Candice isn't scared to utilize whatever's available. She would grab that ref's belt if she could. What's the name of the ref here?
Eddie Munster.
Heard that name before.
And now Ivy Nile. Look at the look on her face.
She's an intimidating presence.
Oh, she's also upset with the way that Candice LeRae has treated Maxine. Some of the really mean things she said. Hold on now. Maxine almost stole one.
Everybody with a conscience has been upset with the way Candice LeRae has been operating. But she is talented whenever she's in the ring.
And look at Candice go. Hammering away on Maxine. Cover again by Candice. Kicked out at 2.
Obviously, the women's tag team champions are something both these teams will strive to be someday. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell putting themselves in the driver's seat.
Now backing Maxine into the corner as Candace continues to hammer away at Maxine, and just a look of disdain on the face of Candace as Maxine moves out of harm's way, trying to somehow make a tag and get to the corner to Ivy Nile. Andy Hartwell, though, not going to allow that to happen, at least momentarily. Tag, here comes Ivy. So a quick counter, obviously getting better. Ivy comes in with a big right and a kick. And the pitbull, Ivy Nile, shot out of the cannon. It's so impressive here in WWE as she sends Indy Hartwell flying. And Ivy, and Enziguri caught Indy in the back of the neck. Such a clean kick. Stick by her, isn't she? Ivy Nile, so much fun to watch. Fired up here tonight. And Indy Hartwell back to her feet and catches Ivy. Oh, Candice LeRae. Candice behind the official's back. Sent Ivy flying off the top rope. Face first into the rope. That's smart tag team wrestling there. Hartwell's not happy. Happy at all. Now from behind. Maxine with a drop kick. Rolls up Indy. Shoulders down. That's gotta feel good for Maxine Dupree. Karma's real, Cole. You work hard, try to get better. Do good. Good things will happen. If you're a bad person, bad things will happen. Wendy Hartwell obviously took exception to Candice LeRae getting involved in that matchup, and it cost her, and Candice not happy. Candice, you've been too negative. You've been too negative. Try to be a better person. That's what everybody's saying. People are trying to tell Rock to be a better person. That's your loss. That's your final loss. Well, nonetheless, let's talk about Cody Rhodes, who, of course, was attacked by Marty last week here on Monday Night Raw. Not medically cleared to be here tonight, but we're told Cody will be ready for both the main events on WrestleMania Saturday and WrestleMania Sunday. However, the Bloodline was here tonight. The Rock and Roman Reigns kicking off the show, interrupted by Seth Rollins, who challenged The Rock or Roman to a match tonight and said, "Hey guys, tell me who wants to face me." I'll leave it all up to you. You guys pick who wants to fight the real champ. Who's it gonna be? You ain't fighting the tribal chief. You're not fighting the final boss tonight either. You're fighting me tonight. But here's the thing. It's Bloodline rules. We'll see you tonight, boy. Now that means anything goes. There are no rules. Bloodline rules. Seth Rollins, Solo Sikoa later on tonight. And if Solo wins that match and Seth is destroyed, imagine the mood Rock and Roman will be in. Because for the first time ever, the Rock and Roman Reigns will sit down together on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon on NBC. Catch their late night appearance Wednesday at 11:35 p.m. They look in the mirror and see themselves. They're always in a good mood. Good. Freaking Rollins. Hey, what's up? Hey, man. One crazy dude. Check it out. Hey, it's Bloodline rules tonight. Anything goes. If they try something shady, I got your back the way you had mine last week. I got you. I got you. Glad to hear you say it. Yes. Go out with me. Yes. WrestleMania weekend. Here's Sting. You got so caught up in these headlines that you pushed your own boy to the sideline. Now look, I have your best interest at me in mind. No doubt, Williams is looking to win.
When you order from Domino's, you can get more than just pizza for $6.99. You can get specialty chicken, savory pastas, oven-baked Parmesan bread bites, molten lava crunch cakes, and medium 2-topping pizzas as well. We didn't stop at pizza, and you don't have to either. Saving on your education should be a right, not a competition. At University of Phoenix, you'll get the best scholarship or savings you qualify for. Simple as that. Explore scholarship options at University of Phoenix. When game time runs into dinner time, a hero must rise. Like DiGiorno Rising Crust Pizza. Because delicious fresh baked taste straight from your oven always wins. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
I know. You can't take your eyes off the Sonic Garlic Butter Bacon Cheeseburger. Don't worry, it's not going anywhere. Here's why. Garlic butter, cheese, garlic butter, bacon, garlic butter. Need we say more? Sonic Garlic Butter Bacon Cheeseburger.
Turn up your summer with Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea.
Twisted Tea fans, a smooth, refreshing tea of Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Made with real brewed tea and a 5% kick of alcohol. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Keep it twisted.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance and I saved hundreds. That's great. I know, I've been telling everyone. Liberty. Liberty. How many people did you tell? Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, liberty, liberty.
Liberty.
Wendy's Orange Dreamsicle Frosty, this takes me back, man.
It's like taking a trip down memory lane.
I didn't know they sold dreamsicles on memory lane. The flavor that takes you back. Get Wendy's new Orange Dreamsicle Frosty.
At Planet Fitness, you can get energy without the upsell.
You still there?
Yeah.
Need for just $99.99.
This is better.
Get energized with a membership that fits your budget. Join Planet Fitness today. Deal ends Friday, April 12th.
New Kinder Chocolate. Delicious little bars of smooth milk chocolate with creamy milk. Made for being a kid. Let that kid flag fly. No flex.
I'm gonna give it
No flex. So.
5 minutes. If I keep falling asleep, then I'm gonna call it because
Hi, I'm John
I'm really
Fiorentino,
struggling.
inventor of the Moon Pod,
Yeah.
a breakthrough in therapeutic relaxation that's changing the way the world sits. Moon Pod's zero gravity technology helps to eliminate back pain, stress, and anxiety by responding to every inch of your body. And now, with the new Crescent backrest and lunar leg lift, Moon Pod will take you to relaxation levels that you've never felt before. Experience the difference at moonpod.co.
I can't wait to see what I'm capable of.
This Hungry for Mania moment is brought to you by Snickers. Maybe you just need a Snickers. Snickers satisfies.
Growing up, my favorite WrestleMania moment of all time would have to be Owen Hart versus Bret Hart WrestleMania 10. Their story was a simple story, brother versus brother, and yes, some people, they're both family, but it was such an incredible match. Anybody that ever wants to get into the industry or wants to come work in WWE as a WWE superstar, I always say, watch that match. This is gonna be Bret Hart versus Owen Hart WrestleMania 10. It's truly one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, and it took place in my favorite arena in the world, Madison Square Garden.
My dream was to be in WrestleMania. This is not the card
CM Punk has no match in Philly. On January 27th, the world lost the opportunity to see an out-of-shape has-been main event WrestleMania. When his brittle, fragile body killed him worse than it did in the UFC. Punk's tricep, like the rest of us, wanted to get as far away from him as possible. Now we're left with a thin-skinned guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it, ladies and gentlemen, because I just can't keep my eyes open. There's no point in you just watching me here, just sleeping. I've been working all day and yesterday, and you know, it was a pretty long day, pretty draining, you know, things I had to do. So absolutely knackered. So I am just gonna call it. I've tried, as you've noticed, I have tried, but I just keep falling asleep. But I will be back for Friday Night SmackDown. I will try and make sure I'm more awake for that, even if it means having a sleep before it, because it's going to be a long a long stream. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I shall see you on Friday.